welcome to the podcast where good trivia gets rewarded and bad lies are punished. But will we catch the lies? This is What's the Fact.
Won't catch the lies on my watch. Hello, my name's Ryan Whistle. This is Warren Robertson. Welcome to the show. It's lovely to have you. And boy, have we got we are breaking ground with this topic today.
We are. Okay, so firstly, the topic. I've got to get something out of the way. Is that camera is it closer to us? Can they see more detail in our faces? I don't think that's a good idea.
Eh? We should have
TV
should. Makeup. Before you went on to 3 Talk with Nolene, did you ever have a crack on 3 Talk?
No, I wasn't famous yet. I started just at the end of Nolene's run on 3 Talk. I had a joke. Jack Sprat could eat no fat and his wife could eat no lean, which is a bloody big meal if you've ever seen 3 Talk. Fat shaming is what it was, Ryan. It's not acceptable these days. But anyway, but yeah, this is too close.
Cheers.
I worry about us putting on makeup for the shows though, because in some parts of America that's been banned now. You're not allowed to wear makeup on stage.
Seriously?
Because they're trying to ban drag shows. So now I don't know what any theater performer in any of those states is gonna do.
Who's trying to do that?
Like
is
illegal.
Alabama and stuff.
Probably it's always the same states, isn't it? It's Georgia and Florida and
Louisiana.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Louisiana does it
that's
because
New Orleans. They're cool.
Yeah. Also, they're either cool or so hopped up on moonshine they don't know what they're doing. Oh, good. I'm glad that we started off offending the people of Louisiana.
No, that doesn't really have anything to do with that topic. Mine depends what you make the moonshine out of.
Yeah.
Oh, there
you can make moonshine out of anything.
Really?
Yeah, but anyway, so the topic, of course. So Dietz has gone away to a farm, and this is, I mean, obviously he's as Afrikaans as they come.
Yes.
And Afrikaans people love a farm.
Oh,
they love a farm. So it's obviously on Dietz's mind that we got to talk about farming.
Oh yeah.
So we've got Matt here today, who is Dietz's understudy. He's like a very pretty little boy that Dietz is grooming.
What we mean by that?
No, that's what I mean by that. He's grooming him. So then we are doing farming now, which is a big topic and sounds incredibly boring. And I'm pretty sure that the numbers on this are going to be incredibly low, but it was quite interesting.
It was interesting, and it's important, and it's everywhere.
Yeah, and it's literally, I mean, this is a thing I learned today. It's literally the world's biggest employer. More people work in agriculture than any other industry. So hopefully those people are here tuned in after a hard day of agriculturaling.
Yes.
To watch this show about their industry.
Yeah, I mean, I once did a comedy show at the agricultural festival thing in Pietermaritzburg. It's at I think it's
a big deal there.
Showgrounds, yeah.
It's a big deal there, yeah.
And it was the one tractor company, and I did some jokes for the staff, and it was like, and then we're just chatting afterwards, and I was like, oh, so what is it like? What do you farm, like maize and stuff? It's like, oh, not just maize. And after we've harvested the maize, we do this, and they never stop farming. Like the season, there's in that part of the world, everything. There's like, no, we're doing nuts there, then we do this, then we did the other thing, sorghum and things, and they were like just rotating so that they were constantly producing stuff. It's become, because you always sort of just, plant your corn and sit back in your porch and watch it grow. It's such a technical thing now. It's amazing.
Amazing. So what you did there. But it's such an interesting thing, because it's like, it's basically, when they said that prostitution's the oldest profession, this is probably the second oldest profession. The prostitutes were probably selling themselves to the farmers, because farming's been around. They've done DNA studies in the Near East where they've shown that, like, it dates back to at least 14,000 BC in certain parts of the Near East. So it's old. This is an old profession that we've been doing for a very, very long time. So there's a lot of stuff related to it, like a lot of history and a lot of weirdness. It's very technical and sciencey now, and you have to kind of go and get a degree to be a decent farmer now. It wasn't always that way. Yeah. In fact, that I'm gonna kick off on that then, if you don't mind.
Go
because I want to talk about, over the years, farmers developed a lot of superstitions. People in general from the older societies developed superstitions around life. because they thought if they did certain things, they could stop the gods from being angry, or they could stop like bad luck from coming, or they could stop witches from cursing them. And farmers were particularly bad at that because obviously their entire livelihood belongs to weather and subtle changes in the weather and when the rain comes. And so basically everything on a farm has got some superstition in Europe that they had.
Jeez.
I mean, yeah, and I just want to give you here. This is my fact. My fact is that these three things are all these things are all superstitions about butter making. Just simply like this is
Oh yeah, you
yeah.
churn that butter.
Yeah.
You've got a butter churning fact up first, folks.
No, so like look, so we know today, for example, right, that like finding blood in milk, or if the cows are producing no milk at all, it means that they've got like a disease or
Yeah.
poor hygiene or something. But
Uh-huh.
back then, they blamed witches trying to steal the cow's goodness. And then the answer to that one, like if you ever had a cow like blood in the milk or no milk or whatever, what you had to do is you had to heat up a poker in a fire and put a red hot poker into the churn, and that would apparently stop that from happening.
Bloody-
Yeah, milk sours in thundery weather. So to counter this, many farmers started placing what they called thunderstones on their windowsills. These were like, they were pieces of like flint or fossil that they'd found on the farm. And they used to say that the reason they did this is that they believed that these were things like ancient elf battle axes. And they put them on the windowsill to stop the milk from going off in thundery weather. In Ireland, people thought fairies had the power over the cows. So when a cow was calving, they would tie a blessed candle to the cow's tail to make sure that she would like give birth. And that would then prevent the calves' butter ever being stolen by fairies. So, like, yeah, whenever they let a cow out for the first time after she was calving, they'd light a fire in the door, and then the cow would have to walk over the fire, and then that would stop the fairies from stealing the cow's milk or otherwise interfering with the cow. Yeah, before churning the butter, they'd put like a pinch of salt in the lid of the churn and make the sign of the cross over the churn because that prevented fairies from stealing the butter out
Damn
of the churn.
straight.
Fairies, the fucking
witches,
yeah,
fairies.
that's all my fact. It's
That's
all
a
true.
smashingly long fact.
Yeah, that's all true.
I'm still stuck with the hot poker in the milk to get the blood out of it. Ew.
Maybe that's what they were doing with King Edward II.
Yeah.
They're putting a hot poker in him to stop fairies from stealing his butter.
This might hurt now, but at least the fairies won't steal your butter. King Edward. Oh, jeez. Oh, jeez. Well, some crazy things there. Tying the candle to the cow.
Yeah, it's all true, Ryan. All of it. Every last word.
You probably snuck in one that is.
You think I rhymed this?
Yeah, well, just they're probably the all true, but for one.
Butter for one. We can do the puns all day.
Okay, let's have a recap. We had hot poker in the milk. Then we had the flintstone on the windowsill.
Right.
The thunderstone, in case they were thunderstruck. The milk was thunderstruck. Then we had the candle to the tail.
Mm-hmm. And then the fire in the doorway of the barn. The cow would have to walk over.
Shit. Fucking shame.
And then salt in the lid of the churn.
Oh, okay.
All these things would stop the last three. All these things would stop fairies from. Why don't they just get a shotgun, shoot the fairies?
It's a wonderful movie called Photographing Fairies.
Oh yeah.
What, did you watch it?
Yeah, I mean, I know the whole story. I haven't seen the movie, but I know the whole story about those little girls that cut the pictures of the fairies out, and then took photos of them at the bottom of their garden.
Yeah.
And
I think the one dude went a bit nuts though. The actual photographer, he was like taking.
I think wasn't it the little girls who took the photos, and then they.
I think this one's got to do with eating the mushrooms and seeing the fairies.
But Arthur Conan Doyle, was it Arthur Conan Doyle?
Who was he believed in fairies?
He believed in the fairy photos. He believed in them 100%. Those girls must have thought everyone was rat pussies.
All right, which one did you make up?
Which one did I make?
Yeah, see, if you made up the blood in the milk, that's really gross of you. I
just wanted to make the King Edward joke.
Yeah, but I think the one you made up was the tying the candle to the tail. I think it's overall because in this podcast, you must swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but
Yes,
the truth
yes.
for
No,
it
I
to be
did. I did.
true.
I
So
told
I
it all
think
true.
I said you told the truth and the whole truth, but you snuck in something that wasn't the truth, and
So
that's
you
why
think
it's
it's
a
a
lie.
lie?
Yes, and I think the one you snuck in was the tying the candles to the tail, the blessed candle to the tail of the
Ah,
birthing
Ryan.
cow. That is my answer.
Ah, Ryan. Like that's so cold of you. I don't Ryan this up. That was all true. All of it was true. I'm not writing this. I'm starting with a genuine farmers are nuts quote. Like I wanted a fact that like we start
Yeah.
this thing out right from the front that farmers are crazy, absolutely insane. Or
And
every
so
single one of them.
so those were all true, eh?
Yeah, every single one was true, and
And
that's literally just butter churning.
is that over the centuries, or was it a specific era where they?
No, so the fairy ones are obviously all from Ireland, and I think the other two are both from England. But those are just the kind of the butter superstitions that I could find. There's superstitions about horses and about when you plant your grains, and when you harvest apples, and yeah, all the things about witches fly on brooms and stuff. They had rules. You don't buy a broom in May. There was a saying: if you buy a broom in May, you'll sweep a friend away. So they had all these kind of crazy superstitions. The black cat superstitions all originated with farmers. So like farmers, are just every aspect of farming life. There was
It's
for
hardcore,
centuries,
it's
for a
mad.
very long
Yeah.
time. And I kind of think that science has sort of freed people from that stuff quite a lot. Like we don't have to believe in all that. It must be very difficult to be, oh, there's a ladder. Let me dodge that. Let me not step on the cracks. Let me
Shame.
just remember all the superstitions. Got to leave milk out for the troll. I've got to do this thing.
Because if something goes wrong, it's like, all right, who did what?
Yeah, who
did
didn't?
what?
Yeah.
Come here, family meeting.
That's right. Who crossed streams while peeing? just crazy stuff. Yeah. So that they must have had that kind of stuff. And now, like science has, I suppose, freed us up a lot of brain space because we don't have to worry about fairies anymore.
Sure. Yeah, totally, man. But the butter churning makes me think of the Amish. That's a fascinating community, and you can go stay with them. They like, if you want to experience their life, you can stay with them and that sort of thing.
You want to help raise a barn.
Yeah, but they churn their own butter, man. I love butter.
You can churn your own butter if you want, Ryan. I mean, like, don't buy pasteurized milk.
Yeah.
Don't go and buy long life milk from Pick and Pay, because then there'll be a problem. Like if you were churning butter and then it didn't turn into butter, that was a big deal as well. Because what that meant is somebody had cursed you. So then there was a whole ritual that you had to go through. And then what that ritual would do is it would lure, and you'd have to do it in the dark in your home with and then that would lure whoever had cursed you to come to your home. So whoever came to your home next was the person who cursed you, and then you could kill them.
No, I was for my first pact. You've gone very ancient. I'm gonna go very current. And there was that book called War and Peace. Well, my fact
very
is
current.
My fact is about war and wheat.
Okay.
Nice. No, it got me thinking about the Ukraine. As you know, it was always called, even back in history, the food basket of Europe. And
people weren't very creative with those nicknames because they used to call Zimbabwe the
Zimbabwe was
food basket of Africa. Yeah.
And so I looked into a bit of Ukraine, and as the war started, suddenly the sunflower oil got more expensive. But that did happen. Did you notice that?
I've noticed everything's got more expensive. No, I'm on the verge of not being able to pay for toilet paper. I'm wiping my ass with my hand.
If you do that to the newspaper long enough.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I can't even afford a newspaper. Who buys newspaper anymore? Can you even do that? I don't know.
And so they, when it comes to like big
you
ticket
have to use
items,
News 24 on your phone to wipe your ass.
sort of rinsed it in there. We're really going back to Roman times, hey?
Sorry, I interrupted you.
Yeah, I was talking Ukraine, and so I went down a beautiful rabbit hole of Ukraine farming, and they got the big four. It's wheat, corn, barley, and sunflowers. I think is their main kind of in that bread basket area. And then NASA's got satellites, and you can see they can tell from their satellites which how the farming's going, how the harvests are going, even during the
Probably a bit
wartime.
shit, right?
Yeah, actually,
I
not
reckon
better than expected.
they're using their tractors to tow away tanks instead of instead of plow the
It's,
field.
it's better than expected. So what they can tell is when you look at the little square, which represents a harvest a field,
Mm.
and we're looking wheat specifically, then the if it's light brown, it means it has been successfully harvested,
Okay.
because the remaining brownness is
Right.
the stuff that wasn't
chaff.
cleared, chaff. But if it's dark brown, it was unharvested and it's gone bad already, or it's unharvested.
Mm.
And mostly along the front lines, would you believe it?
Yeah.
A lot of dark brown, but it's
It's just
actually
Russian soldier shit as they run away. Like, that's what the dark brown patch actually is. It's just indicative of like terrified Russian
the Wagner
soldiers.
group, the
Yeah.
prisoners from the Wagner group.
Absolutely shitting themselves and then running for freedom. Yeah.
And so, but it got me thinking that maize is one of their big ones as well. And then I looked at the whole sort of, oh, but by the way, before the war, they had like a record year. And it was maybe only like 20% less of the harvest, or 25% down.
Okay.
So not bad, even though there's bombs flying
Right.
everywhere.
Yeah, I
Poor
mean that's
people.
amazing, right?
poor
That's
people.
pretty resilient just by itself.
But then I thought, I knew about the wheat. I didn't know there were big maize producers, and they are. But the biggest maize importer in the world was quite a surprising one to me. Was Nigeria. That's my fact.
I mean, yeah, look, it's a pretty big population.
It is.
Sure. But is it a bigger importer than China? Because here's the thing, I know China imports a lot of its agricultural product bizarrely from America. America produces a lot more than it needs. And that's even with the American people eating as much of it as they possibly can.
Them Idaho potatoes in the McDonald's, eh?
That's right.
Yeah.
But, so I know China does a lot of importing. But then maybe they also do a lot of importing from India as well. And yeah, I don't know. Nigeria's got a big population, and it's a growing rapid population. And I don't know how big their agricultural what is. I wouldn't be surprised though if you started with a lie. Where are we with this? Are you a filthy liar? Look at me, Ryan. Tell me whether you're a filthy liar. I want to look you in the eyes.
Yeah, Nigeria,
Nigeria.
biggest importer of maize.
I mean, look, you've chosen a very believable one. Very believable.
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna go with China.
Well, you're wrong about China, but you're right about the lie. It's this is what I liked about this is it's Mexico.
Oh.
Yeah. But I think they do certainly produce their own corn as well. And I'd never, when we were small, there was that probably very inappropriate advert about
big corn
bites.
bites. Yes, I was literally thinking about that as you.
Like these days, I don't know if that would fly.
No, it definitely would not. Put on the
so
the
big,
accent.
so big, so very, very big.
They definitely had a white guy doing that voice as well, because it's not like they brought a Mexican
Bacon
guy.
bites. And I mean, whether big corn bites at anything, it's a lovely chip, I must say. Fritos and big corn bites and knickknacks are all maize-based chips, eh? They're delicious. But Mexicans and their maize, they do a lot of it, and I think I think it's tortillas. Are they maize-based? And
I think so,
and I think a lot of their what would be like starchy things, which you'd think is a sort of a wheat based sort of wrap or something, is actually corn based, and maybe cornbread. But Mexicans like their corn. I don't think they have maize meal, but they must have maize meal. I don't. Maybe they're porridge, but
I'm just gonna let you go off.
They love them corn, you know.
But it's interesting that they've based their entire kind of food, and choices on something that probably struggles to grow there. It's pretty dry, right? I mean, from what I've seen on TV shows I watch about Mexico, it's very orange there. Very orange in Mexico. Yeah, they always have that orange filter on all the on all the like Narcos Mexico.
There was not a lot of corn growing in that vampire movie with
Oh yeah,
the
from
Aztec.
dusk till dawn.
Yeah, not a lot of corn
I
growing
didn't see
there.
any corn growing there at all, unless
Yeah.
it was on Salma Hayek's toe, which she was putting in Quentin Tarantino's
Oh yes.
mouth, right?
What I loved about that movie. Sorry, this has nothing to do with farming, but it's like when she does that pretty amazing dance, and then it's just George Clooney's reaction afterwards. Now that's a fucking show. That's what I call a show. That's a fucking show. It's like the girl just danced to the snake, and she came up to the dude, and then he was like, "Yeah, that's what I call a fucking show." That's just... All right, so it's the Mexicans and
It's
corn.
Mexicans in the core. That's wonderful.
Corn in Mexico, man.
I've got a fact for you that's extremely different to that. Extremely different to that. And that is that a comedian making fun of the way farmers dress has led to a boy band, led to the creation of a boy band. That's my fact.
Boy band. Comedian making fun of the way farmers dress.
Yeah.
Boy band.
It's a strange sentence, isn't it? Like it's kind of like a Mad Lib sentence where you just put things together, but it's 100% true, Ryan. It's 100% true.
Maybe the new kids on the block wear like dungarees and stuff. Dungarees were a thing, eh? We should have covered this in our
Kids on the Block. I don't think NKOTB.
NKOTB.
What was their big song anyway? I can't even remember.
I liked them. Tonight, la 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 tonight. I love New Kids on the Block. Yeah, tonight was, and they had a song called, I think it was called Candy Girl. No, Candy Girl was in. No, Candy Girl. Yeah. Anyway, this is not an 80s music podcast.
So you think NKOTB is the band I'm speaking about?
Yeah, maybe someone went dungarees, because my butt in the early 90s, he came the one time with a pair of dungarees. I think he'd been to America as an au pair, to Canada as an au pair.
Yeah, dungarees were pretty cool in the 80s. And then in the early 90s, and people would start taking the one shoulder strap off, to reveal a tit. No, their T-shirt.
A boy or a girl or
casual.
both?
No, everybody.
Really?
You'd wear a T-shirt under a dungaree, and you'd take the one sleeve off, and then, yeah. I mean, I'm not talking about like Hillbilly Hicks in the straw hat with the dungaree and no top on underneath the dungaree. Talking about like the fashionable people.
And it was like it was. Then it extended for a long time with like girls wearing dungarees. It was quite a very cool thing. Boys was cool in the beginning, and then it was a bit silly.
You know what the problem with a dungaree is? Is you've got to basically take all of your clothes off and put them in a pile in a corner to take a shit. So like, so you go to a nightclub at night, and then you look very cool while you're on the dance floor. Go to the toilet, and you have to take your, fold it in a little pile and have a shit naked. Anyway,
the dungaree. Okay, so I'm gonna say this is. I'm gonna say it's true. I might even guess New Kids on the Block, but I won't say. But if I'm not right about New Kids, I'll still get the point. So yes, it's true. just
yeah,
saying.
no, you're right. It is
Yes.
true. But listen, when I explain it to you, it's gonna be such a simple thing, because what you didn't do is you didn't immediately guess South Africa, right?
No.
Because what happened is Donovan Goliath. We know Donovan Goliath.
Yes.
So he went on Twitter and he took a picture he'd found on the internet of 3 models modeling two-tone clothing, and he put it on his Twitter account and he said, "Name this rap group."
Oh.
And then this became like a viral thing. People started naming the band. There was like Clippy and the Drifters, the Backstreet Boos, the Giannis Brothers. Fatty Kaki is a great one.
Fatty Kaki.
Yeah. And then and then they started saying, what would their big hits be called? And they were saying things like "With or Without You." But so what happened is that there were actually 3 guys who were modeling a brand of clothing called Burble Wear, which is like a very Afrikaans farming two-tone khaki kind of brand, Velskoene shoes and stuff. And then the 3 guys that were models, and what Burble Wear did that was so clever was they basically ran with it, and they made these three guys into a boy band. And the boy band's called Yun Yun Yun. And their videos have like 5 or 6 million hits. Their first one was called Vase Yo Flace. It was released in October 2019.
My word.
Since then, they've had other hits called Two Tone Life, which is quite a cool one. And then the thing that kind of really connects them to this topic, Ek Blaya Boer. So there you are. Yeah. So Yun 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 exists because of a joke on Twitter.
So and started by Donovan.
Well, yeah. So Donovan started the joke, but then obviously the Boerbul Web, I think, probably owns Yun 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 and their souls, funny. And they're probably very sad and they've signed really restrictive contracts.
You see, I like that sort of guerrilla marketing and clever opportunities of going viral these days. We should do something. Maybe Get Naked One podcast or something. Try something. Or
we're Boerbul Wear. We're fishing.
Sponsorship. Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
We'll two-tone it up.
Yeah.
South Africa's national clothing.
We won't have to burden our subscribers to send us money in the future. If we can actually get a sponsor, that's going to be great. Right.
We'll even change the name to Buddy Fork.
I mean, did you ever see that band Beerskral?
No.
We had a go back in the day doing comedy at Tukkies Yule. And that was quite a thing. And there was a bit of a beer stage and a comedy stage. But the main stage, they'd get some serious bands for Tukkies Yule.
And Beerskral.
And Beerskral, I remember seeing them, like, they were flipping awesome. And they had lots of guitars on stage at the same time. Oaks playing all sorts of things, a banjo, obviously. And but they pumped that place, man.
That was the kind of music, though, where you had to be able to play instruments rather than just look really good in two-tone. Music has changed so much from when we were young.
I think it's me, and so you've gone South Africa, so we're gonna get in our plane and head off. But before we get to the war zone of the Ukraine, as we've been
to the war zone of the Ukraine.
Yeah, we have. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
In the beginning, I discussed the Ukraine. But it ended in Mexico.
But and then we came all the way to South Africa. And
now we are looking in NASA's satellite over with their farming photographs, and we're over the Middle East. And my fact is that Middle Eastern food is so lovely. I mean,
and it's basically where farming started, right?
Yeah.
They've done all these kind of interesting DNA samples that they took from ancient farming communities back around there, and they discovered that basically the people were distinct populaces with their own, like, as distinct as, say, China and Sweden in looks, just in this tiny area, and that they weren't interbreeding with each other. So there's all sorts of theories that farming was invented at different times, all in the same area, but by different people, or that maybe they were sharing information, but they weren't crossbreeding. And then suddenly, 8,000 years ago, these nations start crossbreeding, and we start getting the people of the Middle East that we do today.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Wow, man. It's fascinating. And my fact is around one of my favorite things, olives. The Guinness Book of Records for the world's largest modern olive plantation. My fact is that it's in Saudi Arabia.
Is that just your fact?
Yeah.
Like you could just be lying about the country. You could just be lying about
anything.
About anything.
So repeat that. Yeah, the Guinness World Record for the largest modern olive plantation in the world is in Saudi Arabia.
I hate you, Ryan.
I can,
because these facts are so arbitrary. There's 206 countries in the world. Like I could be like, oh, the world's largest olive was grown by a guy in Brazil, and then could actually be anywhere.
Yeah.
This requires me to have a very niche knowledge about a very niche
Absolutely.
Fruit. All right.
But it is very big. You could probably see it from NASA's satellite.
Okay. Yeah. Are you lying to me, Ryan?
You mean about NASA's satellite?
No, about Saudi Arabia. I want to see in your eyes. Look at me. Are you lying to me?
It's not my job to say it if I'm lying.
Okay, all right. Then minute. You're telling the truth. I think you're telling the truth. You're too comfortable.
Give me 30 seconds.
You're not squirming. You're not giggling to yourself about your delightful lie.
So you're saying I'm telling the truth, eh?
Yeah, I mean olives, they eaten throughout that area. In fact, olive
I didn't.
pips. So in one of the oldest settlements that they found, it's basically just like 14 grass huts that have somehow been preserved for 10,000 years. They found all these seeds inside one of the grass huts, and among them are olive tree pips. So olives are one of the earliest things that we may have likely started planting. So all over that area, olives are plenty,
It's
even in Saudi Arabia, which has very little rain.
yeah. I'm keen to talk about this. I'll break the suspense and I'll tell you. You were right. I was not lying this time. It is true. And I'm fascinated about that region and the farming. I've heard sort of anecdotal things about Israel being an amazing agricultural country. Saudi Arabia turns out is a very amazing agricultural country. This the olive tree is indigenous to Saudi Arabia, I suppose, the entire area. But in 2018, the Al Juf, that is a province in Saudi Arabia, to the northwest, so quite close to the border with Israel and Egypt. The Al Juf Agricultural Development Company received a certificate of merit from the Guinness World Records for the largest modern olive plantation in the world. The farm covers 7,730 hectares and has 5 million olive trees.
Sure.
Also, the Guinness World Records took their production capacity of 15,000 tons of high quality olive oil into consideration.
I was about to say they take this oil thing quite seriously, right? It's like where can we get more? Where can we get more oil? Like it's important. We need 15 million barrels a day.
Yeah. You might want to check those barrels, OPEC. They might be shoving in a few olive oil ones instead.
Olive oil is probably the only thing more expensive than oil.
So that region fascinates me because you think of it as quite barren in some areas, but when you read the ancient histories, you read things about the Bible and the Old Testament. I know the land of Canaan was supposed to flow with milk and honey, and the reports were that there were vineyards and pomegranates and all sorts of big, luscious fruit. So you think there are areas where there's such glorious things, and olives. Everyone loves olives, olive oil. The whole Mediterranean region, the Middle East. But dates is such an extraordinary thing because it sustains. A date is got so many calories and is so healthy and all of that stuff, and it grows in the freaking desert.
Well, I mean, this is it, John. Olive is a dry. They basically survive with almost no water.
Yeah,
an olive tree. So,
I mean, it's like to me, it's almost like to bring in my religious side. It's like it's such a blessing that even in a cuck place, you're gonna get nice food from Providence.
I mean, have you ever eaten an olive straight off the tree?
No.
No, that's why you would think it comes from God.
They gotta do
we
things
have to do
to it.
yeah, we got to do all the things to make it edible. You don't just get it like edible off the tree.
Shite? Is it a bit shite?
No, I don't even think you can eat it. I think it's all bitter and horrible, and it's the actual pickling process.
Well, bless that person who first figured out, oh, this is shit. Let's put it in some vinegar for a day or two.
Let's sort it out.
Yeah, but that region dates and the whole region's food is just so delicious, and all the chickpeas and hummus and I love that stuff. Love it.
I'm just watching you. You should have had dinner before coming to do the podcast.
Can't wait to go to the Middle East. I'm just gonna eat.
Let's stick with the history of that kind of area, all right? So I mean, you must have heard of Carthage.
Yes, Tunisia.
So Carthage.
Tunisia. Yes,
Carthage
yes.
it was founded by
one with
Phoenicians.
the elephants, eh? Hannibal.
That's right. Yeah. So it was founded by the Phoenicians, and
okay.
And then Carthage actually the name just means new city, and it was on the north coast of Africa.
Yes,
right up on the Mediterranean, and they were they had a beautiful harbor and access to the sea, and they were right on all the trade routes, and they had a lot of traders, and they made themselves extremely wealthy. And at one point, they were huge, like equal rivals of Rome. Like they were both just as powerful as one another. And obviously this then brought them in conflict with one another, and they fought a series of wars called the Punic Wars.
Yes.
And eventually Rome destroyed Carthage and famously sowed their lands with salt and
Okay.
plowed the lands with salt so that nobody could live there again, and that was the end of
Because they dared
Carthage.
defy Rome.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean,
Arseholes.
yeah. So it was, yeah. There was a lot to it. There was a lot to it. But Hannibal basically invading from the north and winning a series of victories pissed off the Romans, and yeah, there was a lot of stuff. They kept coming into conflict, obviously, with each other over trade routes and all these sorts of things. And let me kind of go a little bit into the history later, because I just want to talk about my fact, because the final destruction of Carthage in the Third Punic War led to the absolute booming rise of the Roman Empire. And a lot of people
Hmm.
say it's because now suddenly they were the main traders, they were making more money in the Mediterranean, and other people say, well, now militarily they had no obstacles to dominating the whole region. But there is another group of historians who say the principal reason why Rome suddenly started booming after that particular incident was because they stole a series of scrolls from Carthage just before burning it down
Oh wow.
that belonged to one man by the name of Mago, and that's my fact. That's this is this the series of scrolls they stole, like National Treasure, that Nicolas Cage movie, from Carthage, led to the Roman Empire, led directly to the booming establishment of the Roman
Well,
Empire.
as this is a farming episode, it could only maybe be like some trade secrets of farming. I wonder if it's that, or some intellectual property, or some how to farm stuff. I'm keen to know, and I do think you're telling the truth. I'm keen to find out what's going on here. So one guy, Margot, writes these
Hmm.
things, these scrolls, they get taken. Shucks, hey. Yeah, I'll say you're telling the truth.
Yeah. So what happened is, and let me kind of, it is the truth. Let me sort of paint the picture. So 310 BC, the Greeks
Hmm.
invade Carthage,
Okay.
and they find the land so abundant with growing fruits and
Really?
and maize and things that, despite the fact that they get cut off from the ocean, they're able to exist on the mainland just easily, feeding their army. That's how
Jeez.
much food the Carthaginians are growing. Eventually, what happens is the Greeks are overthrown anyway, because the peasants actually like the Punic leaders.
Mm-hmm.
They believe the Punic leaders are fair to them. So the peasants of the area, the Libyan peasants, kind of rise up, and they help the Carthaginians overthrow the Greeks. So the Greeks
Okay.
get kicked out.
This must have been post Alexander, hey? The generals who try to maybe.
Sure, I don't know the exact dates
Maybe.
of Alexander, but this is 310 BC. So this is
Okay.
this is towards the end of kind of the Greeks and the
Greek. Yeah.
yeah, and then what happens is Hannibal then, he puts together his army, and he decides, listen, if we can just get over the Alps and we can invade Rome from the north instead of the south, which they're ready for, maybe we can score some victories. And he does, and he scores a number of big victories. It's not as successful as he wanted. He wanted to capture cities and things, but he's there for a few years, and he irritates. He destroys a couple of
Sure.
Roman armies, and the Romans become absolutely outraged with this, and they are now determined that they're going to kind of crush Carthage at the first possible opportunity. And then a guy by the name of Cato the Elder, he's an
Mm-hmm.
old, bitter 80-year-old man. He comes back from a trip to Carthage, and he empties his toga and he spills figs out onto the floor of the Senate. And he does a whole speech about how these were picked just 3 days earlier in a city that was larger and more beautiful than Rome. A city
Jeez.
that, yeah, so he explains that Carthage is 3 times bigger than Rome, and it's full of Greek treasures and artifacts, and it's this really abundant place. And then he ends his speech with the phrase "Delende est Carthago," which is Carthage must be destroyed.
Oh,
And this
Cato, you
yeah, and
dick.
this inspires the Romans, and they get together armies, and off they go, and they that's the start of the Third Punic Wars, and eventually with Scipio Africanus as the general, they capture Carthage, and they destroy it, and they burn the city, and they take all the people into slavery. And the only thing that they save, that as a Roman nation, they divvy up a lot of the gold and the silver and the temple stuff to the soldiers, They they steal a lot of the wealth, but the only thing that the nation saves is a series of 28 books by this guy Margot, which, as you rightly guessed, um, are the secrets of Carthaginian agriculture and the actual reason why Carthage was so successful. Because you see, when Carthage lost the Second Punic Wars, the Romans thought they would absolutely bury them. They told them they could only keep 20 ships, and they fined them this massive amount that they would have to pay off, and the Carthaginians were able to pay off that amount relatively quickly because they sold so much food that when Rome approached them about asking to buy grain for their armies, the Carthaginians then just gifted them the grain and said, "No, it's a gift from us. We're wealthy. We're fine." So this kind of behavior is exactly why they got themselves plowed under in the end. This sort of arrogance, but yeah. So this series of 28 books dictated all sorts of things, like how to choose the best cows, how to domesticate goats, how to
Jeez.
plant fields, how to till the fields in such a way that you were putting fertilizer into the soil. They talk quite a lot about choosing cows for the manure that they can produce, so that you can. So how
Sure. Wow.
which crops needed more water, which
Wow.
like all these sorts of secrets and all
Very
these things.
scientific.
Yeah, and it turned out then that the Romans took these 28 books back to Rome. We know that they took them. That because there's only two things that survived the sacking of Carthage, two like basically books. It's these 28 books, and then it's the story of an early Carthaginian explorer who actually rounded the tip of South Africa. So
Wow.
so it's these two that are the only things we've got, and we've only got Latin transcriptions of both of them, and we know that the only ones that they have because of Carthage was these agricultural documents, and they immediately started implementing the tips and the tricks in these things, which then meant that they started producing a lot more food. It made it very easy for them to take over territories far away from them because they were able to supply a lot more food, so that people were less likely to rise up and rebel because they were suddenly being supplied amply by Rome. They
Jeez.
were making better wine after that. They were doing all these things, and it literally that led to the growth of the
Jeez.
Roman Empire. So this guy Margo from Carthage, is known as the father of farming. He's the very
Jeez.
beginning of farming, and because he's the one who wrote all of these centuries worth of knowledge and experience into one series
Especially
of
in
books.
terms of scaling, eh?
Yeah, yeah,
The
yeah.
industrialization of like
No, but
next
exactly.
level stuff.
But you hear the descriptions of the Greeks have. They'll talk about like, oh, we went through fields and fields of olives, and then fields and fields of figs, and the Carthaginians were the first people who started farming bees, for instance, because before bees and honey, the only sweetener you had was fig juice.
Okay.
So they did all sorts of things that led to the growth of human civilization effectively, and all they wanted to do, really, the Carthaginians, was be left alone.
Yeah.
The Romans just wouldn't.
Oh, there are some tragic things in history of sacking of people. Oh, it's really really tragic when you think about it. Cato rings a bell. I think there
That's
were
probably
four.
because you lived in Durban,
Cato Manor.
Ridge, yeah, Cato
Cato
Ridge and
Ridge.
Cato
Yeah.
Manor. Yeah.
But I think there were four biographers for Alexander, and I think he was one of them. Or he'd written quite extensively. There's like same as the famous gospels. There's four famous gospels, obviously, but Alexander the Great as well. There's like four famous biographers, and I think Cato the Elder was one of them.
Well, there you are.
Like a
Yeah,
yeah,
but yeah, so this guy basically inspired Rome to go and sack a city just because it was better than theirs.
bastard.
People are cocks.
Oh no,
Yeah,
that's
like
not
it's why
nice
Elon
at
Musk
all.
bought Twitter. Just wanted to ruin something great. That's what people are like.
Well, we're jumping all over the globe now, but we were in the northern tip of Africa, and I'd like to take us actually very much to the southern tip of Africa. And
Oh,
yeah,
where could that perhaps
yeah,
be?
exactly. And this is gonna fox
You
you
mean when I did yan
instantly.
yan yan thing, didn't immediately think, you know what my next fact is gonna be? It's gonna be my one about South Africa.
Yeah.
You were just like, oh, let's go all the way to the
Go back.
Mediterranean
Yeah,
again.
yeah.
Let's mark this up.
So I'm just gonna give you my fact firstly, then we can talk about it.
Yeah.
The pepper Jew
Oh yeah.
is
They say it's from the Nines in the forest, don't
it's
they?
not a pepper.
Oh, is that your fact?
Mm. Pepper Jew is not a pepper.
I believe you. I don't think it is a pepper. I mean, it's certainly little. It's got the seeds in the right place, but yeah, I believe you. Not a pepper.
Well, I'm being weird because I don't know if I'm right or wrong. It's one of these weird facts.
So
The
then
reason
you're
I say
automatically wrong is what you are. That's how this podcast works.
the weird thing is this fact is about a commercial enterprise. Pepper Jew, what I can say for sure is it's a brand. And the actual piquant sweet pepper that it comes from was called the Juanita pepper. I don't know how much you know about the story of the pepper Jew. You know that it's proudly South African, eh?
Yeah, I mean, I know that it's. I mean, you say proudly South African, but I know that it is South African. We started putting it on our pizzas and stuff.
Yeah. You can't, yeah, it's South African. I mean, international cuisine people, they know it's proudly South African. But this dude and the Pepper Jew company, they control the commercial term, the business term, the supply chain, man. They got it all under control. And so I'd heard rumors of this story, but I researched it today. So Pepper Jew International and the Pepper Jew brand was founded in 1995 after founder Johann Steenkamp discovered a sweet piquant pepper.
Johann Sebastian Bach. Johann Steenkamp.
Yeah, he discovered it in a sweet piquant pepper in the Eastern Cape. Quite right. You said nice, no?
I said, no,
Yeah, he was on holiday. It was his holiday home or something. Upon discovery of the pepper, the plant breeders' rights were applied for and obtained with the South African Department of Agriculture and Forestry and Fisheries, that department, in order to protect the species. And he called it the Juanita pepper or Juanita
like
pepper.
after his wife or something.
Oh, I don't know.
No. Juanita is an Afrikaans woman whose father's name is Juan. That is how you get the name Juanita.
You know,
Juanita Duplessis.
She's a lovely singer. I love her. She's very pretty. But anyway, back to the farming.
What a startling thing to learn about you. What an interesting, startling thing to learn about what your 80s, your formative years growing up in the south of Johannesburg, watching Juanita Duplessis on the TV and thinking ungodly things.
So he started. So Johann Steenkamp started cultivating and processing the peppers in where he was from, Zanin, in Limpopo province. Where Pepper Jew International's factory is still based today. Steenkamp sold his blah, blah, blah. There's some other nice things I like about this. Pepper Jew International was the first to market this type of pepper, although the pepper is sometimes described as a cross between a pepper and a tomato. This is not accurate. But
is it a pepper?
It is a pepper.
Oh, well, then you were right.
It's not called Pepper Jew. That's the name of the brand.
Oh, right.
It's the Juanita pepper.
How about you said it's not a pepper? So that was your fact.
My statement was Pepper Jew is not a pepper.
Yes.
And Pepper Jew's a brand. But you order them. You become, can I have Pepper Jews on my pizza?
Yeah.
But it's a Juanita pepper.
Okay. I see. Okay.
Yeah. So it's actually about this brand and this whole thing that he discovered and then, in the farming way, patented or whatever, in 2011, Bon Appetit published a recipe for pimento mac and cheese, calling for pepper Jews. Then had to run a follow-up piece telling readers how to find peppers. In 2016, the Baltimore Sun reported that there was a black market for the peppers seeds, so they are in hot demand. Look,
they're delicious.
They are lovely.
Yeah.
And also back to the olive story. It's the brine. It's their secret brine, which is also magic. Apparently, that bottle of pepper juice, that's the only way you can get pepper juice.
I mean, I'm sure that
you
if
can't go to
really
food lovers market and say, "Where's your pepper juice?" Like, it would only be in that bottle called pepper juice. So this oak's nailed it. He's got control of the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's not like heroin. You don't get addicted to pepper juice.
My final fact coming up
is about how you get addicted to it.
No, not really. There's just a dark side. I didn't know. It's not a major part of my final fact, but there's a dark side to farming. But
dark side to farming. Farmers listen to socky music. Did you know that without farmers, Juan Boucher would not have a career?
Of course,
Yuri else is like, listen to you. Actually, that is pretty dark. Yuri else is pretty damn dark.
Yuri else.
Another Yuri else story. He got accused of Prince Andrew like behavior, and he had to flee to New Zealand.
Really?
Yeah.
Is
Now
he
he
a,
comes here sometimes.
is he a
and
singer? Is he a singer?
and he comes here. So he used to
He
be
rings
quite
a
big
bell.
singer.
Yeah.
And then
Yuri else.
he was married to Hestry Kluter. And then he comes back here sometimes.
The
and
high jumper.
Yeah.
The one who would do that weird thing before
That's
she...
right. That's right. And then he comes back sometimes to sing outside of a macro occasionally. but he can't be here for long because the police are looking for him.
Did Hestry go with him? That they're still together?
I don't think they are still together. I think
she dropped a K-bomb at one stage.
Did she?
I
don't know. I mean, we're now in deeply dark, getting ourselves sued territory. So let's just say allegedly over all of this. It's all alleged that Yuri else did this thing. It's alleged that the South African Police Services would like to speak with him. It is alleged that Hestry Kluter dropped racist. Yes. I mean,
well, you magazine can't be that wrong. You know? Huisgenoot.
Yeah.
And so,
do you remember Personality magazine?
Yes.
In the 1980s.
Yeah.
It was the pre-U. I think, in fact, if anything, maybe Personality even became the U magazine.
Yeah, well, I think U is a translation of Huisgenoot. Did you know that part?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Except that Huisgenoot doesn't mean you. That's yo. So don't say, hey, huisgenoot, when you're trying to call your friend in South Africa. That would be a big mistake. Anyway, good. So I've got a fact. It's my last fact before we get to the multiple choices.
Oh yeah.
And it's about the Pope. I know how much you love religion. You love all things. You love all things
of it.
Christian. And the Pope is allegedly a Christian.
Ah, wonderful.
Allegedly, please don't sue us. Is allegedly a Christian.
Oh, the current one.
Yeah, the current Pope. Yeah, Francis.
He's a bit liberal, eh?
Yeah. Anyway, the Pope has a farm called Castel Gandolfo that no one gets to see inside the walls of, except for the nuns who work there and the Pope himself. That's my fact.
That's crazy. He's Argentinian. It's a lovely movie. Have you seen the movie?
I have, yeah.
It was lovely, eh?
It was a
excellent
lovely
acting.
Movie. Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know what this has to do with Castel Gandolfo.
Well, he's Argentinian.
And Castel Gandolfo, my fact could have been that it was named after J.R. Tolkien's character. But I think you would have guessed that was a lie immediately.
The movie portrays him as a really nice Pope. Portrays the previous one as a bit...
I think you have to speak into the microphone.
A bit of a harder Pope. And this one is
the guy who was part of the Nazi youth.
Sure.
Allegedly.
But then there's that confession scene, which is quite sweet. And then they watch the World Cup final together, which is quite sweet.
Yeah.
And and I know he's from Argentina because the movie said so. And he had...
I don't think this is anything
sounds
to do with
Argentinian.
him. As I said, I don't think it's got any... This is not because he's Argentinian. It's not that he had
he has this farm,
he
it's
didn't
in
have
Argentina.
This farm. No, he didn't have this farm in Argentina. What I'm saying is this farm is for the Pope.
Oh!
This is the Pope's farm. So any Pope owns Castel Gandolfo. And only people allowed inside of Castel Gandolfo. Yeah, and the only people allowed... Well, this is my fact, is that it's in Italy. And the only people allowed inside of Castel Gandolfo are the Pope and the nuns who work there. So this is my fact. This is what makes it interesting, you see. Not that he used to own a farm back in Argentina. That's, I think he was a bouncer before he became
being a Pope
man.
Must be flipping cool. I mean, the Oaks, you are revered. The food must be amazing. You just can't bang anyone.
I mean, you can. Historically, popes have liked doing that quite a lot. Yeah.
Shame.
Anyway.
I wonder if you're speaking the truth. It sounds fascinating. So the reason for the fact is it's a farm, eh? Castel Gandolfo.
So it's a farm, called Castel Gandolfo.
And the nuns run it, and I wonder what
nuns
they farm.
Run it. They grow all the stuff there. They process the foods there.
Well. And I wonder why. Why so strict? Why only the nuns? Why? And why? I mean, I can give you a clue as to why. I'll be prepared to make one up on the spot if this is a lie. So the chickens there
are very holy. They must be very holy chickens because they eat the leftover dough from communion wafers that are made on the site by the nuns. So
It's
that's
just
yeah.
weird, eh?
So the nuns are there making communion wafers.
This is very weird. But it does seem like it could be that sort of thing, from the little bit I know about the Vatican. I do want to do a pilgrimage one day. I say it's a pilgrimage. I also want to go to Italy for the food,
Yeah.
but I do want to go see Rome and all of that. Because why not?
Mm.
And the Middle East. I want to also for the food, but yeah, see all of that history. And it seems like something that could be plausible, weirdly so. I'm keen to know what this is about, so I'm going to say you're telling the truth.
All right, I'm lying. So Castel Gandolfo is really a thing. It was bought in the 16th century as a summer residence for the Pope.
Okay.
So it's a bit of a holiday home for him.
Okay.
It is a farm.
Okay.
And it was intended as a holiday home for the Pope, but Pope Francis has never stayed there. Pope Francis, there are nuns that work there, but Pope Francis has in fact opened it up to tourists, and you can go as a tourist, and you can in fact catch a train from
For
the
the
Vatican.
first time ever.
Yeah, so you can actually catch a train from the Vatican to Castel Gandolfo, and you can go and visit it, and it's like unprecedented, because before, it was closed off, not to the level that I implied it was, but to senior church officials. But you can actually go there and buy sanctified vegetables now, and and communion wafers made by the nuns, and all this. But it's a real farm. It really does exist. It's just not closed off and weird, like I made it sound.
Okay.
Like the rest of the Vatican.
So is it Rome is inland, right? Actually.
Yes, yeah.
And so is this near the coast, or is it also
No, it's on
quite
a river.
inland?
I mean, Rome's on a river. Castel Gandolfo is also on a river, but I don't know where exactly it is. But it's close enough to the Vatican that there's a train there from the Vatican. You can go and do a day trip out to Castel Gandolfo.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
That sounds nice. And it's a farm. Veggies.
And it's a farm. It makes vegetables that you can actually buy. Yeah. Holy vegetables. Carrots intended for the twats of only nuns.
I don't know what it was, but I don't think it was recent.
I love how you just didn't bat an eye. You just, yes, that makes sense. They grow the cucumbers that the Mother Superiors are allowed to use.
I get it now. I think it's this Oros. It's really, really quite strong tonight. That's hysterical. Well, on that, there's a song called. This has got nothing to do with farming, but just there's a song called "Do You Know the Way to Amarillo?"
I've heard this song.
Yeah, it's a lovely Western country.
Amarillo.
My brother, I don't know if it's just my brother or if he heard it from somewhere else, but he sings it. Show me the way to. And he inserts Ramadildo. That's what he does with that song. It's got nothing to do with farming. Sorry, folks, for that.
Hey, shout out to Ryan's weird brother.
And it's my turn before we get to the multiple choice.
Yeah.
And oh man, remember my Durban days? I don't think you came to visit me. But
no, I don't think anybody came to visit you. I think you were very, very lonely.
I was in a cottage in a large property in Hillcrest, and man, the property itself, which I had to maintain because the German man and his Belarusian wife.
You used to live with a German man
and his Belarusian
wife.
Yeah, they went to Europe for 3 months, and part of the rental was the rental discount if you look after his dogs and the property, just oversee it. But it was big, it was beautiful, and it's lovely up there, sort of semi-tropical, but it's got its own little vibe happening in Hillcrest. It's really cool. But 3 extraordinary avo trees, different types of avo trees, and then the neighbors also had avos which would drop and fall onto the ground. Man, there were so many avos. I used to give away 10 a day to colleagues at work, and I'd eat 3 a day, but there were so many, and I went back to Joburg every 3 weeks ago, and I'd take a whole
Yeah.
plastic barrel of avos. There was so much avos, and so I thought I'd research a bit of avos for today's podcast. I do love them avos, man. It's a magnificent. God has blessed us with a magnificent
It's
thing.
such a sneaky thing though, because it's difficult to plant them in your garden, right?
Yeah.
You want to grow an avo tree, but you don't know if it's going to be a male or female one, and only the female ones grow avos, and there has to be a male of that species within a certain distance. So when you
Gee,
plant
that's
it, you don't know,
crazy.
yeah, and you only know what it is once it's fully grown. So by that you kind of plant it, and then you wait.
It's a Joburg thing, hey? You're like, I've got an avo pip in the shop. Oh, it's growing. Oh, they shit. You can't. Or can if they produce avos, can you eat them? Because
I think it depends how old the tree is. I think the tree has to be a certain. It's also like olive trees. The first few years they produce olives, they produce very few of them, and they're not really. So you've got to let them age into making their fruit, and then it might not make fruit at all. So now you've waited 6 years or 7 years or whatever it takes for an avocado tree to get to full height, and then it's a male, and you have to chop it down and try again. So what you should do is you've got to plant like 6 or 7 all at once, and then wait and see which one's a male, which one's a female. Keep the one male because you never know. There might not be another one within distance, and then remove the other males. But what a mission!
no, so they grow beautifully in KZN and in that part of the world. But I think the real area where they're going ballistic in South Africa is called of Limpopo, Venda. Oh man, it's wonderful. But my fact is, fossil record evidence has them originating in the Caribbean.
Fossil evidence.
Fossil evidence.
I know that they almost went extinct.
Wow.
Except that there was I seem to remember it was South America, but they almost went extinct, and then giant sloths used to eat them. and these giant sloths used to shit out the seed, and in doing that,
did they eat the whole flipping pip?
Apparently they kept
Stupid sloth.
apparently they would keep no, but these were giant, right? They were enormous, and then they would keep the avocado from extinction just because they became this like the food type of the avocado. And then I'm pretty sure it was South America,
because prehistoric animals were bigger.
Yeah, because it was more oxygen in the air, so they could grow bigger and more carbon as well.
And chow the whole pip of the avo.
Yeah, so they would eat the whole avo, and then obviously when they shit it out, they'd shit it out with fertilizer. So then in doing that, they basically saved the avocado, because they were now suddenly able to start growing all over the place. At least that's what I've read on the internet, and everything I read on the internet is true. So
exactly.
If I'm wrong, feel free to tell me I'm wrong. But yeah, South America, Caribbean, I mean, it's all the same thing, isn't it? Caribbean was at some stage part of South America, when it was all Pangea.
All right.
So yeah, I guess it's all South America. It's all that area. Why not?
Well, you fell for another Ryanism. No, because it's actually the area that it originated from is Central America, Mexico, and Guatemala. So Mexico
used to be the same. That's what I'm saying. Wow. It all used to be the same thing.
Then does anything come from everywhere? Because it's all the
No. If you're talking fossil evidence,
splits,
you're talking about
before the Great Divorce, as they call it in geology.
Yeah. No, I think you're mistaken, because there's always Larry. It's the Great Divorce. No, Larry, that's the breaking up of Pangea. Not you and Linda.
Why I thought I'd trick you there is actually the avos have formed. Do you know the word landrace?
No.
It's just a fancy word for species.
Oh.
But really kind of types. Species. So you got 3 landraces of avos. 2 from the highlands, and that's of Guatemala and Mexico, and 1 from the lowlands of. No, it's the lowland one, which has since been called the West Indian. So you get the kind of Mexican and then the Guatemalan, and then the West Indian Avo. But the West Indian isn't from the Caribbean. It's actually just from the lowlands of pretty much everywhere: Costa Rica, Colombia, Peru, and Ecuador.
So sorry, where?
Lowlands.
So from where? Which countries?
Costa Rica, that's Central America.
Colombia.
Colombia,
Did you say? Yeah.
Peru.
Peru, did you say? So
And
these
Ecuador.
These are South American countries. Are they?
Yes.
Does it turn out that I'm right?
Well, Caribbean's the islands, man. No,
Does it turn out that
no,
I'm
none
right?
of those are Caribbean. Said you Jamaica,
I said
man.
South American. I said
no,
South
you-
American, and you were like, "No, you're wrong. It's also Central."
No, Jamaican. Jamaica, Jamaica's Caribbean, but
Jamaican me angry.
and so that's where they come from, the highlands and lowlands of
Look, so Mexico,
Central
they might want
America.
need a lot of maize, but at least they've got avos to trade for it, right?
Wow, it's the green gold, man. It's not. I'm just so cross that they're so expensive in the shops.
Can't
When I
understand why
had
they're so
buckets
good.
of them in Hillcrest, and that German and his Belarusian wife, they just probably leave them for the dogs, for the two
I
Alsatians.
can't understand why they're so expensive. It doesn't make any sense.
No, it's terrible.
Like we've got enough that people were selling them by the hundreds on the side of the highway on your way to a south coast holiday for my whole childhood. There's millions of these things. Why?
They are
suddenly
so
they like
expensive.
40 rand each.
All the nice things that are expensive must stop being expensive, like butter
And beer.
and beer. But no, butter and avos is the two things which infuriates me as to how expensive they are.
I mean, everything is expensive, right? Like I've noticed Checkers, and this is a bit of a rant. I'm about to
Checkers,
go
go
on.
for it.
They do this-
Whitey, is it
they do
Whitey
this-
Passon? Is he still there?
They do this thing where they mark something up. They'll be like, oh, so bacon is 30 rand a packet, and then they'll be like, bacon is 60 rand a packet, and then they put it all up for 60 rand. But if you swipe your card, you can buy two for 70 rand. And you're like, that's not actually a special because the normal price is 30 rand, and now you're charging me 35. I'm not falling for it just because this week you happen to have marked it up to $60. Listen to me, you fucking liars. I'm angry about this. It makes me so fucking furious. Because do I look like a fucking moron? You know what I mean? You mark this thing up in front of my eyes.
Yes. But and that sort of dark side of farming is coming up. Firstly, there was an interview with a sort of a vegan. It was Piers Morgan giving the vegan a hard time and saying,
Always because he's a cock.
because
Allegedly.
because the vegans were throwing things at art galleries. I forget that red paint story.
Okay, well
And it was like-
that's for climate change. That's
Yes,
not
the-
necessarily veganism.
Yes, the point he made was if you're living in the UK and you're eating avos, then bear in mind they've had to come from far away and on probably not ships,
I'm
probably
absolutely
airplanes and
for
stuff.
the UK only eating foods that come from the UK.
Mm.
They must only eat like a turnip. That's what they must live on.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. I'm okay with that.
Because the other, never mind that it's using petrol
Yeah.
to transport the avo. There's now apparently Mexican sort of organized crime is involved in avo farming. I mean, when rich people want something bad, they will turn a blind eye. It's what the slavery was built on the sort of sugar thing, and now
the cotton,
avos, man. Avos. Love them avos. And it's like,
It makes no sense that they're so expensive.
but they are lovely.
It's also cocaine. Why is cocaine so expensive? You know why it's so expensive? Because it's
Banned.
illegal.
Yeah.
If you legalize it, it's basically the same as sugar. You could buy it in like 1 kilo bag from Checkers and go home.
Yeah.
Like wired off your fucking nut.
It's like it makes you a bit crazy, cocaine, sure, but sugar makes you a little bit diabetic, and that's legal, and that's not nice, It's not. Which is better to
Imagine
be?
buying cocaine in a 1 kilo bag. Your whole family fucking going to school.
I mean, what's worse, being thinking you're a god for a few hours,
Yeah.
or being diabetic?
Getting type 2 diabetes.
Oh, so that's why.
No, but it's basically the same process, right? They should cost the same, except governments just want to make the one illegal. And also, they've started trying to make sugar illegal. Start charging a sugary drinks tax.
Oh,
Cocks.
there's no sugar in this, eh? Well, it is
Well,
Oros.
there isn't anymore because it's all turned into alcohol. Anyway, right, let's do a multiple choice. I've got a fun one. Celebrities who are also farmers.
That is a fun
All
one.
of these celebrities
That is
are
fun.
farmers except for one of them. Russell Crowe, Brad Pitt, Bono from U2, and Oprah Winfrey.
You say they're all farmers
Except for one of them.
Okay. Russell Crowe,
Brad Pitt,
Bono.
Oprah Winfrey, and Bono from U2.
Well, the only one I know for sure is actually Oprah, because in the chat with Trevor Noah, then it came out that she has an avo plantation because she finds avos expensive. So
if Oprah Winfrey finds avos expensive,
does.
we need to about turn this.
The world is a strange place.
Yeah.
Oprah finds
like
avos.
Oprah Winfrey is like, she's probably got a kilo bag of cocaine on her kitchen, allegedly on her kitchen shelf.
Brad Pitt, I know he's from a small town, Midwest type of chap, or he's even a sort of, he sang in a Baptist choir, so something like that. Bono, farmer. Russell Crowe, is he New Zealand or Aussie? I don't know. It would actually be a wild guess. Well, I think Bono would have gone into it because he was such a do-gooder.
Such a knob.
I was going to say do-gooder.
Now, he got in big trouble though for supporting the Shoot the Boer song. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh my god.
Yeah, they asked him when he was out, like whether as an Irishman he respected struggle songs like Shoot the Boer. And then he said, well, look, these songs, they've got their historical context, but they're always going to upset some people. And then the newspaper took him totally out of context, and they ran a Bono supports Shoot the Boer, and then Bono had
Steve
to come
Hoffman, did he get involved?
Probably, yeah. And then Bono had to come and be like, this is ridiculous. I obviously didn't say, my whole life has been singing songs about peace and claiming I love Desmond Tutu and whatever. And now you're telling me I love Shoot the Boer. And obviously, if he was a farmer, he wouldn't support the Shoot the Boer song. That's what I'm giving you that.
Thank
I'm
you.
giving you that for free.
Thank you. Brad Pitt, I don't think he's farmed much because he had his hands full with Angelina. I think she kept him busy. Not a fan of Angelina. Russell Crowe, yeah, he's the rugged type. He's probably got sheep.
Is that just because you think he's Australian and New Zealand?
Yeah.
Man, these guys, they grow up, all they want is a sheep farm.
There's stupid joke.
Nudge, wink, wink.
Nosy walks into a bar, gets a sheep under each arm, and the guy says, "Hey mate, are those sheep for sharing?" He's like, "Nah, fuck off and get your own." Sorry, folks.
There was a great moment in the cricket test. I mean, it must have been early 2000s. Australia were out touring South Africa, and obviously every time Australia comes out here, we always accuse them of fucking their sheep. This is what we do, and there's always big signs, like the very first second test I ever went to was an Australian test, and then they had a big sign up. Somebody had a big sign up of like a caricatured David Boone, and he was bent down chasing a ball, and then the sign said, "Don't take the Aussies to a spit braai, they'll poke it." And then Steve, like after one game, Steve Hall kind of came out and he said they were interviewing him, and he said, one of the weird things about touring South Africa is you see these posters and they're about us,
Yes.
they're about us. They're about us, we come here and then we're getting accused of shagging the sheep. Meanwhile, back home, we say this about New Zealanders.
Yeah.
So he said it was very strange. But yeah, this is one of the things that people do. Like the Welsh get accused of sleeping with their sheep by the English. It's obviously rampant around the world in these rural communities. Is that why you think Russell Crowe?
I think he is I'm gonna say the one who isn't is Brad. I'm gonna think Bono went into it, and Russell's are those sheep for shearing, mate. And then I think Oprah's got a avo plantation. It's Brad Pitt.
All right. Well, you were really confident about Oprah Winfrey. She does. She's got an organic farm on the Hawaiian island of Maui.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's located on the side of a dormant volcano. And she actually grows more than 100 different types of fruits and vegetables.
Good Lord.
Yeah, beets and carrots and turnips and tomatoes and radishes. She's even got a big chicken coop that provides her with fresh eggs.
You see how much you were talking about it. Once you got investment cash, you could
do
branch
whatever you
out.
Want. Yeah, you can do whatever you want.
Harpo veggies.
Yeah, I mean, let's not pretend that she doesn't have a kilo of coke on the kitchen counter, allegedly. Russell Crowe, you were right. He does a farm, but it's not sheep. It's horses.
Wow.
Yeah, so he's got horses and 500 cows. 500 cows.
Jeez.
So that's Russell Crowe. Yeah, tough guy.
Yeah.
Now
Is it? Do you know if it's Aussie or New Zealand?
it's Australian.
Is
yeah.
it?
Yeah,
Is
he's
he an
Australian.
Aussie?
He actually had Oprah Winfrey come and visit him at his farm. So there you go. There's a connection. There's
Oh,
a
that's
Russell
nice.
Crowe, Oprah Winfrey connection.
Talking farming, eh?
Yeah, and then Brad Pitt, he bought an estate in Provence in the south of France for $58 million in 2012, from where he grows grapes
Yeah.
and makes wine.
Is it his own little label?
Yeah, it's called Miraval, and in 2012 he actually won
No.
the best rosé in the world
Buff.
with his Côtes de Provence rosé.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's Bono from U2 who does fuck all except bitch about things and play cuck music.
Oh man, that's wonderful. My multiple choice fact is about a very fascinating crop, which feeds half the planet. It's called rice. It's wonderful, and I mean I was going to ask about the the paddy field is you plant it and then
I think they're called Irishmen now.
you plant them and then you flood them, and I always wondered how they knew that, and it's like it's quite a calculating thing. You got to know how much water and when to. But I mean, have you ever thought about like why flood the paddy field?
I just thought because they could.
Yeah, it is that, but it's like it's extraordinary and rather simple. It's okay. Firstly, they do it because they could, because the thing won't rot, the seed won't rot, and it can actually grow underwater for a bit. But the other amazing benefit to flooding it is the weeds don't survive, nor do the pests.
Right.
So this thing doesn't rot. It can grow underwater, then it shoots through, and you just keep it flooded. No pests, no weeds.
That's amazing. That's
It is
actually really
amazing.
great. Yeah.
It's fantastic, and definitely originated in Asia. There are parts of the world where there's a wild rice which was indigenous. But my question about the production of rice and rice farming is which non-Asian country is the biggest producer? And I'll give you 4 options. We've got the United States, Brazil, Ethiopia, and Kenya. And for fun, I can tell you that in the top 10, they do appear in the top 10, but in 9th place, the rest are all Asian countries.
I would have thought like India would have been up there. And
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So America, interestingly, they during the Great Depression and the Dust Bowl and everything, the government got people to plant crops again by subsidizing them quite heavily, and those subsidies still exist to this day. So
wow.
it's on, I think, wheat and soybeans and maize.
Oh.
So most American farmers farm those 3 things, which then puts them, I think, amongst the top 5 crops in the world.
Sure.
Wheat,
Yeah.
soybean and maize. So, but so I don't think they're very big on the rice, because there's simply no benefit to them producing it. So not America. Brazil's an interesting one. I'd be intrigued by Brazil, but then you did a thing where you put Kenya and Ethiopia, which are right next to each other, both on the list, almost like you were subconsciously trying to hide the real answer with an adjacent country.
It's about farming, not about psychoanalyzing Ryan's.
Yeah, so I'm gonna steer away from Brazil just for that reason. It could be Brazil. If you've gotten me by doing that, kudos to you, Ryan. Kudos. I believe that Kenya's doing very, very well at the moment. Financially and economically, they're being
news.
very well led. Yeah, and I think Ethiopia is also on the way up. Sure. Now the thing is, so China has done a lot of investment in Africa as well.
Yes.
So they're pouring a lot of money into Africa. A lot of Chinese people are moving to Africa and living here, helping with infrastructure development and that sort of stuff. Which country would be most influenced by that sort of thing, and therefore
Sure.
likely to produce a lot of rice. Um, I mean, it's 50-50 for me. I'm gonna go with Kenya.
Sure. Well, there's some great little tactical, psychoanalytical
And it's all
Freudian
wrong.
things. It was Brazil.
It was Brazil. You sneaky bastard.
So we got yeah, they're in ninth place. So China and India, in terms of millions of tons a year, we got China with 211.9 million tons of rice, India 178.3 million tons, and then yeah, quite a way off in the 50s. We got, in terms of 50 million tons, we got Bangladesh, Indonesia, Vietnam, Thailand, and then in about 25 million tons, you got Myanmar, Philippines, and Brazil comes in at ninth with 11 million tons. But I threw in the African little red herrings because one of their favorite dishes in Kenya, or like a staple dish, is to mix banana and rice. It would be the kind of banana that would grow there in Kenya, mix it with rice, and that's your kind of porridgey kind of thing. And Ethiopia, I do think, produce rice and eat it as well, but it's Brazil, man. Yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Fuck you,
Very
Ryan.
close, but yeah, I love the thing. So it's actually what I was doing there was to double up on Africa to lead you away from Brazil, and you thought I'm doubling up on Africa because the answer lies in the African one.
You see, but I literally said to you, if you did that on purpose, congratulations. You're thinking your multiple choice questions through very, very well.
Yeah, and thanks to Michelle for that tip, or that. Ryan always does a funny thing on the right answer. Stop doing that, Ryan.
I hadn't noticed that. One thing we do need to think more seriously on, instead is getting together some sort of Patreon or just like a guy who stands at the local gym
robot
and collects the local robot and collects cash on behalf of us, because we don't have any kind of way to for people to show appreciation except to click like and to share the thing amongst their friends. So please do, if you've made it this far, miracle of miracles on YouTube, it's very rare, please click like, share it, and tell your friends about What's the Fact, because we want to keep doing it.
Yeah, or you can take us to lunch at the Gordons Bay Spur. I'm staying there, and if you like it that much, we'll see you there. Just tell us when.
No, I won't see you there.
Yeah, because he used to work
Ryan
at the Spur.
Ryan will see you there.
He doesn't like the bucket of their marinade.
I worked at Spur, Ryan. Once you've worked anywhere, you can't go back.
It's a lovely bucket of marinade under
the counter. Yeah. Everything. They've got a paintbrush in the bucket of marinade, and then they put all the food on the grill, and then they just the paintbrush. They paint all the food with the paintbrush. I can't. Like, once you've worked somewhere, once you've sung the happy birthday clappy song, it's just ruined for you for life. I remember on like my first day, I get there. This is an unnecessary story because it's nothing to do with farming. But some kid keeps going at me, he keeps like, and I'm just like, this kid is fucking weird. Anyway, so then serve them their food, collect the bill, the rest of it go. I tell my manager, I'm like, this kid at this table, he was weird. He kept doing this at me. Like, no, that's the member of the secret tribe. Get a free Coke if they do that to their waiter. Oh, it was a terrible waiter. But then all the waiters at Spur are terrible. No, not all of them.
Didn't they
just
give you that in the
95%.
training? If a kid does that to you, give him a free Coke.
Yeah, they never mentioned that at all.
So you just thought, I
just thought, what a little prick.
Shooting me this stuff.
Stop shooting me this. Anyway, there you go. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll catch you next week.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
We'll see you next time. Good night. And good afternoon and good morning. Whatever time you're watching this.
Whatever time.